Susie's Courtyard. Today we are not in a courtyard because it's very unusual for it to be raining this time of year. So instead we're in Susie's living room with my very special guest, Kerry Damskey and Drew Damskey. Drew Damskey, I love your name, great alliteration.
Thank you, thank you.
Like that. So we are here with, not self-proclaimed, but proclaimed by the media, the Indiana Jones of winemakers, which is a pretty impressive thing to be called. And Kerry has a very interesting background, but I would like to start by asking you why you are the Indiana Jones of winemakers.
You know, if Daisy, my lovely wife Daisy, were here, Daisy's always on, on looking up and is my self-proclaimed publicist. I think Drew would agree with that. And Daisy came up with the term because I happen to make wine, and I'm blessed enough to make wine from these crazy places around the world. India, Costa Rica at 8,000 feet, Israel in the middle of the desert, and of course California.
Well, and my understanding, as part of the legend, is that you also discover interesting vineyards and interesting places. And vineyard is all about soil and place. And it's my understanding, urban legend in the wine industry, is that you're able to find gems everywhere.
Well, it's really, certainly for Palmeri, and that's primarily what Drew and I sort of want to focus on, which is our family brand. We've got pictures that you'll see of the vineyard we visited yesterday. It's called Sweetwater Saddle. It's in the Coast Range up at 1,800 feet. And Palmeri's all about mountain growing. And we brought today a Cabernet single vineyard from Sweetwater Saddle, a darkened brooding, which is Cabernet from Sweetwater Saddle plus Syrah. Palmeri started as a Syrah Cabernet blend, and then we branched out, and then a Pinot Noir from another mountain vineyard in Fountain Grove from between 1,500 and 1,800 feet.
Beautiful.
And then you have a beautiful.
Oh, I just have a little Pinot here. We're moving this aside. Enough about Selby. I know. I just poured this lovely Pinot. The Palmeri, I love the label, but of course everyone knows I love cats. I know the wine is more important than the packaging, but is
Can
there
I tell
a
you the
story
name?
behind the cat? Yes, the name, please.
So, because, Drew and I are Damskey, very Polish. And there's a mixture whether or not it's Catholic or if we're part of the tribe. But we decided on Palmeri because Palmeri is a species of oak that's only grown at high altitude. It's sort of a scrubby, ugly oak, but it only grows at high altitude. And so, and Palmeri's all about grapes grown at high elevations.
So it's a badge of honor to have a vineyard that even has a Palmeri growing.
There
very,
we go.
Truly, that's fabulous.
Yeah,
That's
very.
fabulous.
And each one of our go ahead. Sorry,
Well,
buddy.
I was gonna say a little something along the lines of, we've kind of found vineyards in mountains that are off the beaten path, like this one in Fountain Grove, where we had somebody bud over Cab Franc, and we believed in the site, and we believed in the place, and we helped, and we worked with them, and we said, we're thinking about these clones, we want this here, we want that there, and I think kind of that speaks a little bit to Papa Kerry's vision for understanding terroir and what you can coax out. And this, believe it or not, is third leaf, so this is an extremely young vineyard.
It's
And
pretty.
it's lush, it's bold. You have like great length, I think, from the 115 clone and the Pinot, and then you get this lushness from the 23 and the 667. It's just opulent and focused, and it's a really cool site.
I just tasted it. It's a really amazing combination of elegance and earthiness, but it's clean.
That's what I was going to say.
It's
So
like-
there's
it's
a
clean
slight rugged
Even
character
you'd like it.
also.
It is.
And of course, we three are all winemakers. Palmeri. I've come from the standpoint of being a scientist and being a winemaker for 45 years. and that I've learned that less is more. So none of the Palmeri wines are filtered. I try to move them 3 times in their life. And so what you taste, you know, is really representative of mountain fruit. Mountain fruit is, as we know, is smaller berries, takes on its own character of terroir. And not that people do age wine, but they do age longer than other wines.
You know, it might be psychological, but whenever I taste mountain fruit, it always tastes really clean to me. I mean, very clean and fresh. It's really
taste it.
Yeah,
well,
that's it.
absolutely.
And
Of course.
what I also love about it too is that,
That's great.
so it's from, you know, it's from a very new AVA called Fountain Grove, which is, you know, up in the, you know, the Mayacamas. It's really Cabernet, you know, country. And you know, but it's a very cool site. There's a thermal vent that shoots off of San Pablo Bay in the morning, and then there's a thermal vent that shoots off of Bodega Bay in the evening. So you always have this wind moving through this little U in the mountains. And what's so cool about it is it's not Russian River. You get this darker fruit, this blacker tones.
And we all love Russian River.
And it's not quite Sonoma Coast because it's not super, but it's got elements of a lot of stuff. You know, and it reminds me kind of like Santa Rita Hills
Oh,
area.
yeah, I could see that.
And you know, it's just a fun vineyard to play around with. And every time I step in it, I guess we're kind of like, ooh, we get
Well,
excited.
I actually procure Zin from that area.
Yeah.
And I swear, they're, you know, as complex as Russian River Valley is, I can't believe how many microclimates are in that
Right,
area.
exactly.
It's crazy.
Whereabouts do you get yours in?
I get it off Bastoni Lane.
Okay, yeah.
So from the Bastonis, and
That would be very good.
You literally are walking up a hill and it's suddenly chilly.
Yeah.
And then you think that's weird, and you walk back down the hill and it's not chilly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize how complex the microclimates and even the soil.
Yeah.
Soils are quite different.
And you know, and what's interesting is we work with this same vineyard for Cabernet, Petit Verdot, Syrah, and all these different blocks are in little different, again, little microclimates, and you're like, my gosh, like this one has so much volcanic loam and ash, like I can't even, you know, it's amazing. And then you go, and one is just rock, sheer, and it's really cool to see basically within 5 stone throws of one, you know,
Exactly.
one set, you know, you're in a totally different world, and it's fun to play with that.
Yeah, and let's give a shout out to, I think that's the newest appellation in
It is.
California.
I think so.
Fountain
Yeah.
Grove.
Fountain
Yeah.
Grove District. It's something to look out for because right now we're talking about Zin, Pinot, you said Petit Verdot,
Cabernet.
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 I mean, that's a very diverse, it's like you've taken all of the valleys and put them in this little microclimate area. So Fountain Grove District, very exciting. Now, I want to make sure that we don't forget to mention, of course, the brains behind the bronze, Daisy. Your
Yay!
wife, you can't
Daisy,
be here,
are you
but-
listening?
But it's more important that we really introduce the true star of the family, and that is Rufus. So we should not leave. Rufus has a very important role in the family, and it would be fun if we can show our audience what Rufus looks like. And how involved is he in the day-to-day operations?
Well, Rufus is a little bit of, you know, he captures a large part of my heart. He sleeps extremely close to me, usually either on me or within inches.
Oh,
He is kind of my co-pilot. He was a rescue dog that was bred for pig hunting up in Redding area, and my sister found him, and the owner had some terrible plans for what he was going to do, and he's anyways, he's just cute and he's wonderful, and it's so great to have such a happy heart and little wagging tail in your life. And anyways, it's good to have Rufus as a co-pilot, and he's a world-class lover.
Oh,
And
That's
big
fabulous.
tongue.
One thing that makes me really proud of living in Sonoma County is we do love our animals here.
Yeah,
That's one thing we all have in common.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now, something we should take a little vineyard tour. The point of this is to bring the vineyards to you, since you are in your home doing what you're supposed to do, washing your hands, wearing your mask. So we are going to give you a little tour of the Damskey vineyard. And one of the most interesting parts of the vineyard is that it was purchased from a craftsman. I believe the gentleman was a woodworker, and the vineyard was already planted when the Damskeys bought it, and they kept the original design, which is fascinating. So if we can look at that.
Yes, and what you're seeing there, this is the top block, and you're looking out into the Merlot that's kind of like a horseshoe, kind of bullseye. And the way it's planted, it just gives you a huge amount of respect for not just a microclimate as to what this vineyard is, but the aspect of being on the north end of this block versus the south end, because you get different aspects with the sun. There's the soil structure there is Franciscan shale, so it's all this ancient seafloor that's been pushed up to the top of the mountain. So it's a really unique soil structure too.
It's 1,800 feet.
Yeah.
And you can't quite see the ocean, but it's out there and you can see the fog line.
Wow.
And you can see where Sonoma Coast is and all that wonderful Pinot Noir is in the distance.
You can
You
smell
can smell
it.
it, yeah.
You can smell
And
it.
so we're above the fog, and it's in the coast range, but surprisingly, because you're above the fog, and it's a very light soil, as Ruby said, so it's been uplifted. It's very aggregate driven, and so it actually ripens, moderately early, for Cabernet. We've picked Cabernet there in September.
Yeah. No, I mean, in most years we pick that vineyard in September. And it's interesting too because my dad and I would go around and we sample together, and we're talking about picks and strategies and turning tanks. And I remember we were down sampling Bacigalupi, and it was like 100 degrees at Bacigalupi, which is a warm site in a cooler area. And we go up to the top of the mountain and it's 90 degrees. So you have these smaller, more compact diurnal shifts, but you have an extended growing period. So it's a really unique, site to really work with. And it's also been fun, I think, to get to work with the site and kind of challenge each other to, how can we get more out of it? What can we do to kind of elevate it every year? So anyways, we just had a fun meeting with the grower, and we've got a few ideas that we're going to try and work with this year.
I love, you're very articulate. Diurnal shifts. Franciscan shale.
Well,
It's just fabulous.
We could say good, as Andy Beckstoffer said. It's
like
good.
dark.
It's good.
It's good stuff.
I guess
Texas, right?
it's a product of liberal arts education, and unlike my dad, who's got the strong science background, I'm more of a alliteration.
Right.
Leave it a little fluffier.
And appropriate that you're Drew Damskey. I love that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, and my dad and I talk about this a lot, where he's got an amazingly good, great science winemaking background. I have none of that, so we have an opportunity to kind of take risks, challenge each other. We come to wine in very different ways. I think Papa Kerry is obviously a Davis-trained, very talented winemaker, where I don't have a lot of that. So anyways, it's been fun to work with you and get to learn winemaking from you. And then, as I think I know what I'm doing, I can take a little bit of a risk, and then it's like, okay, Papa Kerry, I don't know about this. Is this a good idea, bad idea?
Well, it's super cool with Drew now, and I'm sort of a backstop, and Drew has his own winemaking clients also. And with Drew now making wines, Drew poses questions to me. How about if we try this? And I never think of ways we shouldn't do it. So we're doing a lot more experimentation than we used to. Last year for the Cabernet from Sweetwater, we did a really cool experiment on Saunier. We did regular, and I usually pick on the higher side.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with Saunier, that's when you're bleeding the wine to make rosé. Literally.
Right. You put the fruit, you crush the berries into a tank, and I make all of our wines with modified Burgundian method. So I don't pump over, I punch down everything.
And
And
for
then-
those of you who don't know what modified Burgundian method sorry. They're very sophisticated. over here.
We're very gentle in general, but no, Dad, tell them about our Saignée
that's
So the Saignée experiment was really interesting. So
And we're not making rosé.
because I've always done little teeny bleeds. The reason you'd want to do it is to concentrate the skins, because that's where, of course, the flavor and the color comes from. So we did one with no Saignée, one whole tank, and we picked bins so that the fruit in the tank were representative and mimicked the other tank. And then the other one we did 50 gallons per ton, so 33% Saignée, which is a huge Saignée.
Yeah, so basically you crush the wine and you had one tank that was left in its most simplest form.
Yeah.
And the other one, you removed 30% of the juice. So there was a more concentrated juice to skin.
And out of the
Percentage.
tank, I'm sure Susie, you make wine like we do. We do cold soak for a week, and then
Cold
and then
soak? You're kidding.
cold
I'm joking.
cold soak is like getting
Wait,
into
let me grab a
a
pen.
bathtub that's really cold.
Wow.
It's something like that. Anyhow, so after fermentation and heated maceration, don't forget to turn the glycol up to 90 degrees. Yeah. Anyhow, so there was clearly a big difference between the two wines.
The non-Saignée, the color when we took to do a juice panel was watermelon, and then the one that we did that was 50 gallon per ton Saignée, we're talking jet black, big berry, and you're like, this has only been in a tank for
3 weeks.
No. This was before.
Oh, right. After cold soak.
You're talking about 7 days,
Yeah.
6
It's not
days
like
in the
the-
tank.
Yeah.
Like the Alicante.
Oh
Alicante
man,
shade.
Going on.
it was
black.
Yeah. So and what was
crazy.
interesting too is to be evaluating it now, because obviously that's a financial commitment, because we don't make rosé, we just put that down the
We just
drain.
throw it away.
We say
You
sayonara.
sacrificed it to
Yeah,
the
we
wine
say
gods.
we say
Exactly.
and you know what, and I'd say that we've gone through barrels 3 weeks ago, and we really liked both. There were some examples that the Saignée was like, this is hands down through the roof better, and there's some examples where you're like, I'm not 100% sure.
It's interesting. I thought naturally the Saignée wine would, across the board, be a better wine, and it is thicker, it is more generous, but it's not 100% better.
Well, and there's always the balance factor.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And I mean, when you're thinking about getting rid of that, just throw me a little bone.
Yeah, how about this? You bring the porta tank over. We will give you all the free Saignée juice you want.
Exactly. Well, let's. What wine should we taste
So do you want to try the Cabernet?
I would love to.
Okay, great. It's this one right here.
Oh, perfect. Let's
You want to,
set it. Oh, yes. I
there we
need
go.
to. Oh, perfect.
So each one of our labels, you can see, are different. And Linda Schroeder, Mick Schroeder's wife. Mick Schroeder is our neighbor and winemaker at Sonoma, Courtyard. Linda's an artist.
Fabulous winemaker.
Fabulous and a
people.
wonderful guy.
Yes.
And his wife's an artist, and she used to do wine labels. We were one of the last, but now she does fine arts. And so we asked Linda to do these not so cute animals in the vineyard. So we do have a boar. This is a cougar, and so this was our original label right here, and it's the boar, and it's sort of our animals are sort of scary, but nice at the same time. Yeah.
I would say ruggedly handsome.
Yeah. And then the fox is an older label, and then you can see that Linda on our Cabernet, she changed it. She evolved her style, so it's a little more lifelike.
Very nice.
Yeah. She's a fabulous person and a great
Well,
artist.
and I believe that because we're doing more sustainable farming in Sonoma County, we are getting more wildlife.
Indeed.
I mean, but those are beautiful labels.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
The wine, I will taste it. I'm sure it's going to be lovely.
So each one of our labels also, one more thing on the label, then we can talk wine. Each one of our labels has has an oak leaf. And you know why? Because Quaker's Palmeri is an oak that only grows at high altitude. You wouldn't know that by just looking at the label.
No. In fact, the cool thing about buying this wine is that you've got the insider story. So when you order it, you know exactly what's going on. You can show off to your friends because you'll know what's going on with these labels.
Yeah.
Well, they're really beautiful. The wine is wonderful.
We have a couple of shout outs if you'd like
All
to.
right.
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
of course.
absolutely.
Nathan Abraham, JP from Cincinnati says hello.
Oh,
Tony Immordino says hello.
very nice.
Mendy Caligari, Michael Snoddy.
Oh, I know Michael.
Do you? Okay.
So you shout
There
out
is-
back.
Amen.
He's at Santa Cruz at the moment.
Yep, I knew that.
Lou Wilkinson,
Oh, how nice.
yes.
Hello, Lou.
And Dawn Selby from Texas.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wait a minute, is that a relative?
no, it's not a relative. You know,
Okay.
no, they're actually non-relatives watching.
Okay.
So it's very,
I
very
guess
fun.
that's a good thing.
It is. But you'd be amazed at, we do have a group of Selbys who like this wine, and I'm sure Mr. Palmeri's shouting out to you right
Well,
now.
the good news is that Palmeri is kind of like Smith in Italy, you
Oh,
know, so we've got
nice.
kind of like the strong Italian, you know, supporter, and they're like, oh, what part of the old country are you from? It's like, Poland, you know, where we've got the glass bottom boat navy, you know.
Do you know how many Palmeris there's Palmeri restaurant, there's Palmeris in of course in our wine club,
Absolutely.
because they, you know, it's like, it may not be a common name here, but as Drew said, I think it is sort of common in Italy.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yes, Selby is a good British name, thank goodness.
Well, you have
Nice.
better stock than we do.
Actually, the only thing I love about the name Selby is, you know, Lord knows, as a winemaker, I don't always contribute as much to society as I feel like I could. However, there are some little baby Selbys because they were drinking my wines.
Excellent.
So, I know.
Yeah.
So that's super fun. So, do you have any plans to expand your vineyard acquisitions at this point?
Yeah, well,
Indiana.
I'm going to defer to Drew. Drew, we actually, Daisy and I, you know, in this COVID, Daisy, we go for a lot of drives. You know, it's like,
And Daisy, that's
this
perfect.
is, you know, I try to do something meaningful every other day, and that may involve a drive. So I'm trying to convince Drew. We drove up Pine Mountain. You ever been up there?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, it's outside Cloverdale, it's super high elevation, and Daisy and I found this vineyard that's been abandoned, and I want Drew to buy it.
It sounds like me asking my dad to buy a boat. It's a depreciating asset.
Yeah.
But there are some cool vineyards that we you know, we've started.
Or a
sourcing from.
timeshare.
Or a timeshare.
Yeah. Gosh, that's a tough one.
That's
Vineyard, timeshare.
But you know what? What's really fun to do is, I mean, and I think that this speaks a lot to, you know, Papa Kerry's pedigree at evaluating vineyards. I'm trying to glean as much information as I can, but we're getting very fortunate in that we're starting to work with some pretty cool vineyards. And I would say that with Palmeri, we're focused on looking at maybe, you know, they're not Tokalon. They're not these names that everybody knows.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
because anybody, I mean, not anybody, but, you know, one can go and just say, I want that, and I want that. And that's not what we're about. We love working with great farmers and growers, finding these little gems that are hidden all across Sonoma County, you know, Mendocino, Napa Valley, and just making these incredible wines from those vineyards. So, we've started working with Front Porch Farm, just up the hill on the other side of the Fitch Mountains. So we do a Grenache Syrah blend from that, which is super.
Don't forget the Mourvedre, man.
Dude, 2 clusters of Mourvedre.
GSM.
And that is the definition of.
I'm really glad to know you're as shameless as I am.
But TTB won't allow GSM. You have to put the percentage. I didn't feel good enough to put 2 clusters.
I would do it. Okay, now there's a wine here that sounds like it'd be a really great cocktail.
Yeah.
It is called Dark and Brooding.
Ooh.
Like
that.
Yeah.
So, since it does not involve vodka, as I slur my words, tell us, this is a proprietary blend?
It is. It's
Name
blended.
and blend.
It's a blend. Palmeri started as it was going to be a one wine brand of Syrah and Cabernet. And so this was our original, and we used to make a Cabernet Syrah, but when we were in restaurants and on premise, no one really knew where to put it. So we decided to come up with a name, and that has a little bit of a story.
So how is?
I'm gonna let Drew tell the story. Because
we-
it's like B-rated.
So we, Papa, Kerry, and I were in the lab, and we were coming up with our blends, and this was in 2011, so that was a tricky vintage. So we're like, let's pull out all the tricks, and let's really see what we can do
every
here.
tool in the tool belt.
Exactly. So we're like, okay, well, is this going to be strong enough to be a Merlot or a Cabernet, a Syrah? Wait a second. The best wine we have here is actually basically a red blend. Well, we need to come up with a name for it.
So you blended it, and you came up with the synergistic, perfect.
Yeah, no, we
found the best
worked,
that you could,
we
which
worked
is-
and worked, and we were kind of looking at our components and being like, we're gonna need to earn our money here. This is a tricky one. It's not just gonna come out of the barrel and want to be beautiful, and we're gonna have to tailor this a little bit.
The girl out of the cake.
Exactly. Duh, 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 duh. So basically, Papa, Kerry, and I remember we were driving over, 128 to Napa, and he's like, "What do you think about black and brooding?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great, man." Like,
We're going
dark,
black and brooding,
big, extracted. I think people will get it when they see it.
Listen to headbanger.
Oh man,
Dark and brooding.
and then we talked to my mom, and she's
Then we
like,
came home and shared with Daisy.
and she's like, "Boys, no. This sounds like domestic violence or something like that. We can't call it black and brooding, but let's think about it. Maybe we can come up with something that's like that, but a little bit different." And so she came up with dark and brooding, and then we're like, no, and we were really holding on to black and brooding, and we were, polling, and black and brooding was not polling very well, and so we
Had some people say absolutely not.
Exactly.
And then
So
you're saying, well, then you can't have a glass of wine.
and so we ended up saying like, okay, we are going to make the decision based on a Google image search. We're going to do black and brooding versus dark and brooding, and that's going to be it, And so black and brooding was black and brooding chickens, which not the best thing, not the worst thing, it's safe.
And Linda could have done an animal. Right?
Exactly. And then dark and brooding was like Johnny Depp, like in Pirates of the Caribbean, like no shirt, looking extremely attractive, kind of sweaty, and then so we're like, okay, that's the one that we want. So we.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. No. Oh yeah. Totally. Yeah. So yeah, and so dark and brooding is. Has been kind of one of our flagship wines, and one basically one of the wines that Mama Daisy, she definitely has the seal of approval on this one, because there's this like yummy factor that we try and hit. It's
Yummy.
really expressive.
It is
It's
Well,
juicy.
I don't care how it tastes if it's like Johnny Depp sweating.
I know. There you go. I mean, we'll take what we can get.
Oh my God! Can you do a white so there's condensation?
Exactly. Let's just distill that.
Like, what's not to love about that? Okay, I'm gonna taste it. I've had it before.
And
That's
it's become more popular. When we started this in 2001, no one would even think about putting Syrah in Cabernet. Now, of course, the Australians have done it for a long time. No, it's a serious.
Enough about the
They're upside down.
Or right side up.
They
Yeah.
mispronounce Syrah.
Yeah.
About them.
Yeah. But I mean, Syrah and Cabernet, you know, for the style of wine we want to make for Palmeri is a wonderful blend.
Now, can you indulge me and let me describe what I taste, because I
Indeed.
love it. You get the cab up. The thing that Syrah always does, in my opinion, is it extends a finish. And I mean, it's just a beautiful finish, but it doesn't lose the
There's
integrity
lusciousness.
of the Cabernet.
Yeah.
It still tastes
Yeah,
like
it's still-
Cabernet.
yeah, it's
you're
still-
not
exactly.
compromising the varietal integrity
Yeah.
on both sides, which
Yeah.
is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
There's, you know, and I think for when I smell it, when I taste it, it's broader. The shoulders are like kind of like padded
Like Johnny
velvet
Depp's.
shoulders.
Like
You know, they're
big
big and
Caribbean
expressive.
shoulders.
Exactly. They've got a nice tan on them. You know, but no, but they're but it's lush. It's got great length. It's definitely, you know, like I think varietally Cabernet, but there's like a little like it factor there. You're like, what is that? Because it's a broadness and there's a little bit of that
It is.
sweet.
And you know the neat thing, not to be too wine geeky, but mountain fruit has wonderful natural acidity. And while, you know, this is not a 13% wine, you know, it's in the 14s, but it's all natural acidity. And, you know, we as winemakers will do the needful thing, you know,
Because
if
all
you need
we-
to. But you know, we rarely have to make any adjustments to any of
You
our
have to
fruit.
acidulate? Wow, that's pretty amazing. It's delicious. I get a lot of underlying raspberry fruit, which is
It's this-
very unusual with a Cabernet base, or even Syrah.
It's interesting. It's like I get tons of, I would call it like black raspberry because
black raspberry.
it's kind of, and it's like slight candied. You know, it's very pretty, and this is just a wine where, you know, like if you are going to like your uncle's house who doesn't know anything and it's like, I'm a bourbon guy, like he would appreciate this. And if you bring it to the house that like, oh my goodness, like I'm like a you know, total enophile, and please check out my cellar, and you know, it's like a crowd pleaser across the board, and it's just a tasty wine.
What is the retail on this?
59.
That is
I take that
fabulous.
back. 58.
That is fabulous. Well, I would love to take this to Johnny Depp's house.
I'll give you a bottle.
Well, this has been so fun.
Thank you,
two.
Susie.
And I love the father-son.
I know, it's
so cool.
I mean, no, honestly, it is really fun. I mean, I think it's everything that, you know, I mean, that every parent would love. Although, you know, we didn't really expect Drew to be a part of it. But he, on his own, decided he wanted to. So, and it's been, you know, a great partnership.
That's wonderful. Yeah, especially you're deciding on your own to join
And he's a
the
fun
team.
guy.
And he's a fun guy. There's no doubt about
I'm just
that.
an amateur mycologist.
Is there any last comment you'd like to make about your brand? Which these are fabulous, fabulous wines. How do people order them? Through your website?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, so palmeriwines.com, or you can Google Palmeri Wines and you'll find it. So Palmeri wines.com, and there's a little shop or buy our wine or something like that icon, and these are all available, so you can go to there and check it out.
And after COVID,
Yes.
Come back to Hillsborough.
come back to Hillsborough and you come and visit us.
We want you to come visit us in Healdsburg. It's still, even given everything it's still charming. It's still charming, yet empty, yet charming. Yet
And a
Indeed.
little rainy.
And a little rainy at the
There
moment.
we go. And the locusts are not coming.
No, they're not.
No murdering hornets.
No, thankfully just in Washington for now.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank you,
two,
Susie.
and
This has been very
here's to
fun.
your success.
Cheers.
All right,
Love you guys.
Cheers.